Hi, I'm Bjorn, and as you can see from my festive hat, we're doing something to do with magic. As I said in my last Suicide Squad episode, we're doing Justice League Dark. And for those who are new to my channel, hello, I'm Bjorn. I do movies, I write scripts. This episode today will just be introducing the characters I intend to use in said script, and sometime in the next couple of weeks, I will drop a script. That script will be fully voiced by myself, and you can, follow along with the story. This movie will have some continuity to some of my previous DC stuff, namely the Suicide Squad content. I'll put an annotation above if you want to watch it. That's a lot of content, and it's not 100% necessary to understand this. A few of the characters that I'm using in this appear there. So if you want the understanding of where those characters come from and what they're doing here, you can watch that, but it's not really mandatory. This is sort of its own standalone thing. Without further ado, let's go ahead and sort of get into what I'm doing here. Obviously, this is Justice League Dark, a team of DC heroes that are magic adjacent. They tend to have some magical qualities. The series was fairly popular. There's a couple animated movies, but nothing has ever been done in live action. And the animated movies, I don't think, ever quite tapped into some of the coolness of the early run. And that's what I'm going to try to do here by changing a lot of things about it. Doesn't really make sense, does it? But I understand the spirit of what the comic book is going for, I think, and I'm going to try to unlock it. So, what is my script about? It's about the Justice League Dark racing against John Constantine and a villain who I'll get into later, all in search of something called the Dawn Spear, a magical artifact left behind by an ancient magi with extreme power that the Justice League Dark thinks is way too dangerous to be left in the hands of men. And John Constantine wants because he's an egomaniac who wants to use its power for himself. But maybe there's more to it than that. So yeah, my team will be up against John Constantine while also kind of working with him. He's always been kind of an anti-hero to the Justice League Dark. He can be villain or hero to them, member or antagonist, and I think that's really cool. And I'm going to be kind of keeping that energy in my script. So let's go ahead and get into our characters. Our first member of Justice League Dark, it's obviously John Constantine, and I would say he's the main character of the movie. It's going to focus very heavily on him, fleshing him out, understanding his character, and his dynamics with some of the other Justice League Dark members. What makes a man like John Constantine such a dick? That's sort of what we're going to hope to answer with the script going forward. Our next member is obviously another Justice League Dark mainstay, someone who's mandatory on any team. Zatanna, the magic lady. Her father, whose name is Zatora, or Zataro, I don't know quite how to pronounce it, but I can see it in my head. He was a powerful magi with lots of skills, but unfortunately he has disappeared in my version of Justice League Dark for some time, leaving her all on her own. And she has been sort of taught a lot of his magic. She's very powerful in herself, and she has a heart of gold. I would say what makes Zatanna very interesting is, unlike a lot of the other members of Justice League Dark, she's not an asshole. She's very nice and tends to try to do what's best for people. In my continuity and in comic continuity, she had an on and off again relationship with John Constantine when they were both raised under Nick Necro, a mage. I'm gonna sort of change Nick Necro from his weird comic book version where they're like sleeping with the teacher kind of thing. I don't care for that. So Nick Necro will be older than Constantine and Zatanna in my iteration. And he worked as sort of a mentor for them briefly, and then they obviously had a falling out. John Constantine and Zatanna are not together at the beginning of this, which is, I think, where they're the most interesting. Alright, my next character, Shade the Changing Man, another founding member of the Justice League Dark, and a character who appeared for 2 movies in my Suicide Squad script. Obviously, post that script, I'll keep it spoiler-free for those who haven't seen it, but he's faced some major changes in his life, and he's currently teamed up with Madame Xanadu and Dorothy Spinner, characters we'll get into in just a second, to found the Justice League Dark. He, however, is having some issues in his own life. His madness vest, which is siphoned off his born schizophrenia, is beginning to fray in the script, and his schizophrenia is beginning to leach back into his mind. He doesn't know what's causing the madness vest to falter, but he's beginning to become paranoid, and things around him he's not sure if he can trust. And we're going to make Shade sort of unreliable in this movie in as unspoilery a way as possible. Something's going on with him, and we'll explore it throughout the movie. We've got Madame Xanadu, a powerful magi from the Arthurian legend. She is going to be almost exactly the same as she was in my Suicide Squad stuff. bar some changes. At the beginning of my script, Madame Xanadu is seeing horrible visions of the future, which sees the Justice League Dark and most of Earth dead, and she doesn't know what's going to cause this horrible catastrophe, but she knows there's one thing that causes it: the Dawn Spear. She's been seeing visions of it atop piles of corpses, and she wants to get to it and use its own power to destroy it before anyone else can. Oh, hey Asher, dog interruption. It wouldn't be a... Oh, shit. Ooh, look at that. It's like spines coming out of that, just stuck right into my chest. Alright, puppy. You got a ball? You're so proud of yourself. Okay, so I'm just going to leave him here and keep going. Dorothy Spinner is our last member of the Justice League Dark that people knew about going into this. She is from my Suicide Squad team and has the ability to turn her imaginary friends into physical beings. Only in this script, there's some changes in her life too, because her powers are also beginning to falter. Her imagination isn't what it used to be as she grows up. This movie will be set about 6 or 7 months after the last Suicide Squad. So she's almost 13 and a half now. And she's beginning to worry that her powers will falter. In addition, she's trying to use her powers to bring back someone she lost in the previous movie. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, probably. That'll make for very interesting character development. Now, who is our last member of Justice League Dark? I have not revealed yet. It's Dr. Mist. This guy is kind of obscure. I think he was in like 4 issues of Justice League Dark. Who is he? Well, Dr. Mist is an ancient African king who, in the comic books, steps into something called the Pillar of Life and becomes immortal and is granted magic powers. In my script, to tie into the name, which doesn't really make sense, does it? They never really say why he's called Dr. Mist. A strange cloud of mist falls over the kingdom he rules, and when it's gone, he's found himself immortal. For years, he watched as people he loved died, and then new ones were born, and he ruled over his kingdom, but became something of a tyrant, and his own people turned against him, forming a rebellion. He couldn't bring himself to kill them, so instead he put himself into exile, and for 1,000 years, just lived by himself in a cave, trying to understand his own mind, until he finally decided to re-enter the world, to discover the modern world. He married someone and fell in love, but again, she grew old and died. And now it's been 3 years since his wife had died, and he's trying to deal with the grief that outliving everyone you love has brought him. And he's going to be a member of our team, someone Madame Xanadu recruits. His powers in my script are going to be different. In the comic books, he just is a Magi who becomes immortal, which is weird because the Magi are already kind of immortal. It feels like a lot of clunkiness that doesn't need to be, like, there's no point to the Pillar of Life, right? Like, what's the point of it? So in my script, he is made immortal by it, and his only magical capability is magic he can absorb from other people. He's like a battery. Anyone who shoots magic at him, he can return fire it. An ability which will be unique to him in my universe. Kind of cool, and I just kind of like the vibe Dr. Mist brings. Well, there will be some other characters that appear in this who aren't members of the Justice League Dark, but are allies or people they turn to when they need help. Nightmare Nurse, a woman with the ability to heal any magical injury, will appear in my script. There you go. And that's really it. Anyone else I'm going to leave a surprise. And there are quite a few surprises. So, let's get into our villains. Who are they? What do they want? It's Nick Necro. I already talked about him, so surprise. Nick Necro is my main villain. He appears kind of as a villain in Justice League Dark, but is so quickly got dealt with that he's basically a non-factor. I'm going to change that. Nick Necro will not be a non-factor in this movie. I won't focus on the villains too much in this movie. It will be squarely focused on the heroes. But that being said, Nick Necro is pretty brutal, and he wants the Dawn Spear. Spear which has the ability to control life and death and even alter reality. It's extremely powerful. The mage who created it hid it away and left only a map that he thought someone who was worthy could follow, because he couldn't bring himself to destroy the spear himself. So obviously Nick Necro wants the spear to do something bad. I won't get into that here. I'll let the script sort of lean into that. He's a very wealthy individual who has considerable magical knowledge, maybe equal to or greater than Constantine and Zatanna. And he's used his money to hire himself a magical army. And who are those characters? Well, first off, we've got Element Girl, a woman who is imbued with the magical ability to control the elements, earth, wind, water, fire. And she is also not quite right in the head. Much like Shade, she's been on the wrong side of mental illness. And she's sort of lost her mind. And that's not an understatement. She's very much lost her mind. And so she's very unreliable and sort of insane, and makes for a very interesting heel as a henchman. Our last guy is a villain who appears in one issue of Justice League Dark, and his name is Mind Warp. Now, Mind Warp has the ability to astral project an energy being away from his body, which can physically alter the real world, but can't be damaged by anything that isn't magic. Kind of a cool power. He's another henchman for Nick Necro. And there might be some more, but you're not going to find out here. You'll have to wait and see in the script. Alright, that's all. I want to pitch this movie as sort of Justice League Dark meets Indiana Jones. They're looking for a lost artifact, but also having to deal with magic and their interpersonal conflicts. While there might be something larger brewing in the distance, maybe something the Justice League Dark doesn't quite understand. And the only member who's seeing glimpses of it is Madame Xanadu, who's horrified about what she sees but doesn't quite understand. The first episode will come out fairly soon, so y'all can look forward to that. In the meantime, let me know what you think is going to happen below. Let me know what characters you think might die, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Adios.